Leave no stone or relative unturned in the search for insurance coverage if you've been injured in an automobile accident. Hi, I'm Seth Scott, Senior Litigation Attorney here at Kalfus Nachman. Let's talk about how to get you fully compensated if you're injured, but you don't have your own auto policy and the person that caused your accident doesn't have adequate insurance. Recently, I had a client who was injured in a large van accident. He suffered pretty significant injuries, broken bones, and he faced a very lengthy recovery period. Unfortunately, he was one of 6 people who were injured in this van. The driver of the van was at fault and didn't have adequate coverage to take care of all 6 of these horrifically injured people. My client didn't have a car of his own. He didn't have his own auto insurance policy. And when he came to Kalfus Nachman, he was feeling pretty depressed because he didn't know how he would get adequately compensated. Let me tell you how your relative's policy who lives with you can help you in this type of situation. Under Virginia law, every auto policy in Virginia has to provide for uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. Uninsured motorist coverage is available if someone is driving a car and does not have insurance, and you're injured as a result. You can tap into your own insurance policy to get compensated for your injuries, your lost wages, and your pain and suffering. Underinsured motorist coverage is a situation like my client faced. The van driver in his case had insurance, but it wasn't enough to cover all the injuries that took place in the accident. My client didn't have a car and didn't have his own auto policy, so he had no way of recovering under his own policy. When he came to us, we came to find out that he lived with his brother. And his brother did have a car, and he did have an automobile policy. We were able to attempt to make a claim under his brother's policy. We were able to speak to our client's brother and determine that he had an insurance policy. Under that same Virginia law that requires uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage, a person's resident relative is also a covered insured for uninsured and underinsured purposes. A resident relative is exactly what it sounds like. It's a person that lives with you that's related to you. So in our case, my client lived with his brother, and therefore he was a resident relative, and he could tap into that uninsured, underinsured coverage. When we told our client about this, he was initially ecstatic. He might be able to be fully compensated for the horrific injuries that he suffered. But then he felt a little down. He was worried. He was concerned for his brother. He didn't want his brother's insurance premium to go up. Fortunately, we assured him that under Virginia law, an insurance company cannot raise your premiums unless you're at fault for an accident. Obviously, our client wasn't at fault for the accident. He was just a passenger in the van. And certainly, his brother was not at fault. He wasn't even in the car. Ultimately, we were able to settle my client's case with his brother's auto insurance carrier and got him full and fair compensation for his injuries. Why am I telling you about this? Maybe you're like my client and you've been injured as a result of the negligence of another person and they don't have insurance or they have inadequate insurance. And maybe you don't own your own car. I spend every day trying to find every dollar of insurance coverage that's available to my clients. So if you have questions about insurance coverage and how you're going to be adequately compensated for your injuries, I want you to pick up the phone and call me, Seth Scott, Senior Litigation Attorney at Kalfus Nachman. Thank you.